Good morning, everyone, and if you're just joining us here at Edward Grable Studios, today we're taking a break from our tool chests, and we're going to be learning how to turn wood on these wood lathes. So it should be super fun and exciting. Let's go.
My name is Matt Harber. Welcome. I've been wood turning, 18 years, and teaching and demonstrating for 9. I make a significant portion of my income from wood turning, so I am officially a professional wood turner. They pay me for my stuff, and they pay me to teach. I am hard of hearing, so this ear doesn't work at all, and this ear works kinda. So if I ask you to repeat something, because I didn't hear it. I tend to slip into wood turning jargon sometimes, so if I use a term or say something that you don't understand, please ask. So I'm here for is to help you answer questions. I'm going to move over here. So.
It's hard. Yeah.
I can see the rest of the day. Okay, this is a wood lathe. Right? This bit down here is called the bed or the ways. This mechanism here is called the banjo. It can be moved along the ways and be clamped. This device here is the tool rest. It's what you rest your tools on. It can be rotated. It can be raised and lowered. This is the headstock. The headstock has a series of pulleys in it. We have the belts all in the middle pulley. There's a little diagram down here that tells you what the speed range is. Okay? The speed range we have here set is supposedly between 550 and 1650 RPMs. I've seen some of these go as low as 450 RPM, but it's that general range, okay? This is a variable speed lathe, as is that. The variable speed control is here, the silver knob. First thing I do when I walk up to a lathe is I turn the speed all the way down. I have done that for all of these this morning, but you're to check it anyway. This is the power switch right here, this big red toggle. Turn it on, the lathe goes. Turn it off, the lathe stops, hopefully. Right next to the power switch is a forward and reverse switch on this lathe. If all of a sudden your tools stop working, stop cutting, it's because you accidentally hit the reverse switch. It will happen, some of us will do it. Typically when you hit it, it's either when you're turning the lathe off or you hit it with your hip because you're over there. And your lathe will stop working if the lathe's running, and you'll have to, maybe sometimes you might even have to unplug the lathe for a minute to get it working again. So be advised, some of you will do that today, okay? This is the tailstock. The tailstock can also be moved and moved along the ways and clamped, okay? This is how we make things tight, how we put things between centers. This mechanism right here, in the middle here, is called the quill. It can be advanced or retracted with this wheel, all right? This thing on the end here is called a live center. It's got a bearing in it, and some dip on it will spin. So everybody's is a little different. That one is, you've got more of those than we have the other ones. The one on the lathe behind you, Josh, is a 60-degree cone. I have that exact one, I'm going to use it. If you retract the quill far enough, there is a mechanism that will punch the live center out. You can put other things in here. They all have what's called the number 2 Morse taper arbor, okay? So both the headstock and the tailstock have an internal number 2 Morse taper, abbreviated number 2 MT. This is one of the things that came with one of my lathes at home. It's got a thread in here, and I've got a soft touch with something that's called a no-nose rubber chunky on it. Yes, sir?
Is Morse taper pretty much standard in the turning industry, or is
yes, among the lathes, almost all the lathes and all the fixtures are number 2 MT. These Rikons, that jet, and that Parmag behind it, and all my lathes at home, and so on. They all have a number 2 Morse taper. You will rarely, if you buy a used lathe, especially if it came from England or someplace like that, you might find yourself with a number 1 Morse taper or a number 3. But, so it's something to check. So the spindle, which is through the middle here like this, spindle on this side has threads. That lathe there has a scroll chuck screwed onto the threads. Okay, inside, not all the lathes have these in right now, but inside this one is something called a drive center or a spur center. This is called a knockout bar. That's what it's for. It doesn't hurt much. And you take this out. Now, I am holding this thing securely, so it will come flying out if I don't. So when you switch to the second piece of wood this afternoon, for New Year's, that's how you do it, okay? Hold it securely because these things are sharp and getting speared with one is no fun. Plus it'll wreck machinery and stuff. I believe I have that jet myself. It's one of my lathes at home. I don't have the bed extension like Luke does, but the left-hand side of that, I have the jet and the stand. I prefer that lathe over these Rikon lathes because I think it's built better and it's more powerful. One of the things I like about that lathe is I can disassemble it, get it in the car myself. So when I travel to do demos, I can take it with me. That's why I have it. Unless there's a floor model and the guy I know that does tool company.
It does make a lot of tools better.
Yes. It helped make the decision. Okay, so one of the things you will not use today, there is a little button here next to the outboard side of your headstock. It is the spindle lock mechanism. Please don't play with it. It's broken on at least one of these lathes. What it does is you can pull it out and rotate it 90 degrees, and it prevents the spindle from turning. Yeah, it's a pain to use. And sometimes it doesn't work on these lathes. Like that. So let's find one where it does work. And that's the broken one. So I should be able to spin this freely by hand, right? There it's locked, okay? So they also have, these lathes also have a fixture here that will, the wrench will fit, okay? So it's not something that we will use today, so it's not something you'll have to worry about. Questions on wood lathes?
Most accessories are interchangeable between most wood lathes?
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
There are 2 pretty standard spindle sizes. So these lathes are all 1 inch by 8 turns per inch.
Okay.
So it's 1 by 8, that's a pretty standard size. Especially among the midi lathes and the smaller lathes.
Okay.
When you buy a full-size lathe, a bigger lathe, they usually are 1 1/4 by 8 TPI. So like
that's considered a midi still?
That's still a midi, yes.
Okay.
This is a full-size lathe.
Got it.
My recommendation is always to buy the most lathe you can afford. You can make big things on small things on big lathes, but you can't make big things on small lathes. Okay?
Yeah, I'm just gonna ask if you're making a big bowl, for example, is there something you can replace to make this like a taller thing, or is it just the whole lathe needs to be a bigger size?
These lathes have the headstock is fixed; it's screwed into the lathe. Okay. This lathe is the same way. My lathe, the headstock is rotatable, so it's built that you can move it along the ways.
Right.
And there's another lever where you can rotate it so you're outboard.
Oh.
So one of the things you can do is you can take it to the end of the lathe
Right.
and turn off the lathe this way.
Gotcha.
And something else you can do is turn it to the side. Now, typically, when you make a big bowl or something like that, or a big vase, and you're doing that, you need another fixture, a standalone fixture, to rest your tools on and that kind of stuff, so your tools are supported. That's an excellent question, thank you. But that's, so if you are going to be if you think you're going to be taking your wood turning someplace other than just spindles, then consider buying a full-size lathe. When we get to our chair legs here, these things will be like this. They'll be off the end of the lathe, okay, a little bit. So the table legs and chair legs that we're making, basically are at the limit of where these lathes will allow. So if you want to do anything longer than that, you'll need a bigger lathe bed. So it's one of the reasons why Luke has the extension on his.
Oh, the chair bed makes sense.
And a lot of those, like my lathe is a Powermatic, like this one. This one is 70 years old or something like that. Mine is like 15 years old. I have a bed extension on my Powermatic. I can turn 4-foot long stuff on mine. I don't do it very often, but I can if I want to. Questions? Other questions? Okay, a lot of this stuff is in this manual, and the basic tool stuff is also in the manual. So, all right. So,
At the administration office.
well, you know, maybe there's a living in it. Who knows? It's a good idea to keep loose clothing away from the spinning machinery. If you've got rings or watches or anything like that.
Right. That's good advice. I'll give you more good advice. Always think safety when working with a spinning lathe. You notice I didn't wear a necktie. We got a lot of letters about this. You want nothing hanging down and no loose clothing. Possibility.
Make them go away. A beard, tie it up, etc., etc. Long hair, keep it wrapped up. All right. So.
You making a pony I can borrow?
A little ambitious, I think. I'm gonna tie up my hair.
A couple weeks ago, I would have.
We're using these for practice today. So our first wood is going to be these here. This is one I think it's kibble dry. I'm gonna hang on to this one for a minute. And it's glued up. Okay, good point. Use a face shield. Everybody pick a face shield, use it. If you want to clean it, now's a great time to do that. They're probably all dusty.
She would pick a nice one.
So one of the ways that I find center on a square piece of wood, and these are pretty close to square, is I go corner to corner, draw a line, corner to corner, draw a line, and then I'll use, this is a spring punch, and I'll use this to mark my hole. This is pressure, spring punch. Now, to seat these spur centers, these drive centers, this is how we're going to do it. We're going to start it like this in the hole and whack it. So it seats the teeth in there pretty good, and it's a little off center, and it's going to move. And then, assuming I've marked my side, my other side here, I will mount it like this, and then I will bring my tailstock into the center post like this, lock the tailstock, crank it down, and lock the quill. We had some equipment issues yesterday.
So we don't have to mark the center on this one.
To mark the centers on both. I didn't. I eyeballed it because I can.
This is Dua's idea. I was just exactly what I was just about to say.
In interest of brevity and I saved a step. So I turn my lathe, I flop down, I stand out of the damage pad. The damage pad is this direction. If something comes off, it's going in this plane here. Okay. So, and then you can turn the lathe up. People say, I like to turn fast, okay? And especially with a piece like this where you're starting off, it's uneven, it's not round already. Fast can help you get it round sooner, okay? So people say, Matt, how fast you turn? I say, I turn the lathe up until it starts walking around, and I turn it down a little. I don't want anybody turning faster than they're comfortable with. So, start out, see what it's like slow, and then turn it up until you're, as long as you're comfortable, you can keep turning it up. So I'm going to show you here, and I'm going to turn this all the way up. This piece is pretty round. It's not walking around at all, okay? So that's as far as I can get it. I'm at 16, 15. So you can do that if you've got your center points in here pretty well. You can do that with this piece of wood, and it won't be a problem. All right? So face shields, please, and mark your wood.
Yeah, I have like a little one at home that's like probably like the Harbor Freight equivalent
Okay.
of what you could get.
All right.
But to like teach myself in it, if I like hold the chisel wrong and it gets like jammed in, it kind of bogs the spindle effect and it stops it.
Yep.
Do these do that or
They
no?
will too.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
That one won't, and neither will my big one.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I know at a certain point that they're not.
Yeah, that's called the catch. You get that, and it's almost always a catch is almost always a tool presentation problem,
Right.
which means you're too far off the tool rest, and you've got the edge of the wood rather than riding the bevel.
Right.
And hopefully we can get past some of that today. So.
But that makes it, like, for me, that makes it so much less scary to think, like, okay, if I hold this chisel wrong, it's not going to flip the chisel into my face.
Yeah.
You know, like,
So my next little bit here is to talk about what happens when you do that.
Center.
You can bend using the biggest, strongest tool. Okay. So at least two of these up here are bent. My spindle rough and gouge is bent. So I learned it the hard way too. Okay. So this is one of the reasons why you want to keep the tool rest as close to the wood that you're cutting as possible. So I'll wait till everybody's got their wood mounted. There's at least two mallets and lots of pencils and straight edges, so do that. You want to do one yourself?
Who will mount one first? Sure.
Yeah, there's one over here, so. Nice light white pen. So let me help you go through the process by taking this off. So the center pin on those are spring loaded?
Yeah, push it down far enough, it'll click.
Yep. The important part is to get a place for the teeth into the wood and a place for them to register.
Mallet. Thank you.
Okay.
Didn't stay in.
A place for the teeth already, so you're good. And you have to keep up pressure while you bring the tailstock up.
Silver fell out.
And does a face shield suffice for full eye protection, or do you also?
There is a movement that advocates wearing full eye protection as well. I don't do it, but it's not a bad idea. I have some friends, at least one friend I know, who had a piece come off the lathe and go through his face shield and he'd crack him in the head, break his face shield. So
How far do you tighten
it's
that
actually
in?
a very good thing.
I haven't actually tightened it in at
Oh,
all.
okay.
I just got it lost.
I didn't know if you went over that.
He was black and blue for 9 months, so it was.
How far am I supposed to like tighten this in?
I crank it pretty hard.
Yeah,
So
as hard as you can.
yeah, I mean you want it tight. So one of the things, that if you don't get it tight enough and you get a small catch, it'll tear through it with the soft wood, it'll tear through it. So be advised.
Would I normally have concern for having knots in here?
The knots are not necessarily.
That's tight.
Okay, so here's what's going to happen. This wood
Not quite.
is kiln dry, so it's really dry, and it's white pine, so it's soft. Knots are a lot harder. So when you hit, all of a sudden you hit the knot, you have an inconsistent.
Like
This is what I want to see. I want to see it close like that. Okay? And one of the things you do when you say, all right, that's close, and then I'm going to spin my wood by hand to make sure none of it hits. Okay?
Just a knot that doesn't hit, pretty much like
Yep.
right up there.
Yep.
So half an inch from the furthest part.
Quarter inch, eighth of an inch.
Oh, you want it to
Yeah, roast.
Just as long as the wood doesn't hit it, you're in good shape. So there's a place there where the lathe starts moving, but I had it all the way up, so we know we can probably get it where it evens out, where it chills out.
You just gotta go past that spot where it starts jumping.
Yep. If it stays jumping and you're at the high rate of speed, then stay at the lower, you know what I mean? But so one of the things I'm going to do here is I'm going to start working on this side of it, okay? Just to show you. So I've left my tool rest has a little more room on that side of it, so that when I come off the tool like that, I'm still on the tool rest. Okay? Make sense?
Yeah, say again.
Tool rest is outside of the piece of wood.
Sure.
So when I'm coming like this and I come off the wood, I'm still on the tool rest. So my tool doesn't fall off the tool rest.
Makes sense.
And when you make that mistake, and some of you will make that mistake today, you'll understand exactly why you don't want to do that. So leave yourself enough room so that you don't come off the sides of the tool rest. These are only like 8-inch tool rests, so they're not very big. That's a 10-inch one. It's nicer. There also, you'll see 6-inch ones and so on. Okay. Any questions on anything we've done so far?